Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Digital Media Sync. It is Monday, January 10th, and we are back to a full schedule of Digital Media Sync on Known Live at Known Co-working 139 Orange Street in New Haven. Known is open for dedicated desk and office and drop in as well. They are making sure that everybody stays safe, so everybody needs to be masked and utilizing the usual protocol. I am actually working from home today, um, but I am live streaming for Known Live, the digital media sync. I also wanted to make everybody aware that there's going to be two digital media syncs next week. January 18th, my guest will be Celeste Tapia from New Haven Free Public Library. We've actually been working closely with the library to make sure that everybody knows about their digital toolbox. So the latest addition to the digital toolbox is LinkedIn Learning, and Celeste will be walking us through that. And then on the 20th, I'm super excited because the Arts Council has two new people coming in, and I am going to be interviewing them on January 20th. So if you go to the Known Facebook page or the Digital Media Sync Facebook page, you'll see the information about that. I'll be posting that really, really soon. But today, again, I am super excited because my guest, who was actually in the hot seat last week, he was the host, but now you're a guest. You're a guest of me. Um, and we've been working together a lot with the Digital Media Sync series, both from the perspective of art, style, influencing, brand influence and that sort of thing. So this has really been exciting to have like this being added to the menu of what's available. So I really want to thank you for that. Oh yeah, and I didn't even say who the heck you are.
I mean, I've been on here so many times.
I'm like, this guy over here.
No introductions needed anymore.
Right? Like, I'll just let you introduce yourself. No problem. Whatever. Well, me because you have so many roles, and I often call you an innovator and an artpreneur because there are so many things that you do. So we'll start there. Okay, yeah. So this, as it says on the screen, this is Raheem Nelson. Welcome, Raheem.
Good to be back. Yeah, this has been a great experience for me too, Julia. Just coming onto the program as often as I do, and then be able to talk about all these different things, and like just really great. Kind of getting me in the habit of not only creating all this work, but like kind of like decompressing and talking about it, and talking about what I enjoy and what I do want to do more of, and then getting my friends involved too with projects, which is what we did for the last session that we had, and like just having a blast. Like absolutely love it.
Yeah. So if anybody missed the last session, we had Christopher Ortiz, CEO, and Alexia on. And did you want to talk a little bit about that? And then I'll tell them where they can see it if they missed it.
Oh yeah, sure. So Chris is a notable hip hop artist based out of New York City, and his manager Alexia. They work together on things like a clothing line and his music as well. And he had a thesis project that he created when he was going to college. We both went to the School of Visual Arts in Manhattan, and he released this project. It's called Redress, and it's like a revenge animated short film. And when I saw it, I was just blown away. I actually didn't see it when it released. I saw it recently when he put it out. So after he shared the link with me, I was like, hey, like, what are you doing for promotion? Are you having like any talks or anything like that? And he said he didn't have anything scheduled. So I knew that I wanted to just help promote him. And, I knew that you had the show Julia in that it would be a good opportunity to
Yeah.
introduce something like that's part watch party, that's also part Q&A. And yeah, it was just so much fun. And, just seeing him being able to be in his element and then talk about this short film was just like very, very just amazing for me.
It was, and it was a great experience for me as well because I think this was the first time we actually had a watch party as part of digital media sync. So I think being able to kind of push the envelope with that has really been very helpful. Um, I want to start talking about now why we're actually here.
Hmm.
So there's a couple of things that have been percolating over the past couple of years. I think one, we've all realized that the art community is so super huge in our lives. I want to say around the world, but it was definitely very impactful in New Haven. And also that just like every other sector and every other community, the art community had to really kind of be innovative, be proactive,
Hmm.
pivot, if you will, and figure out how to communicate, promote, create online.
Yep.
And in this particular case, there was a couple of other cases that we had talked about with, how you were promoting uh, the labor and arts with the International Festival of Arts and Ideas. And
Hmm.
in this particular case, it was with Artspace, and it was specific to. I think a lot of people in the New Haven area know the Open Studios. It's an event that happens in October over 3 weekends or more. There's a lot of interaction in person where there's studios that will go to throughout. Um, but the past couple of years, that's kind of either been scaled back or closed up. And so the issue became, how do we communicate this online and how do we
Hmm.
engage with the artist and with the community? So I guess, do you want to summarize a little bit about what that became from your perspective?
Sure. Yeah, no problem. I really enjoyed working with Artspace a lot, and I knew there was going to be something coming down the pipeline. I had my wedding reception at Artspace, so I was in talks with them about what I was creating with that, and I was using the space, and I wanted to just get like an opportunity to work with them, beyond that. And I think them seeing what I was able to put together with my wife and using their space and the way that I used it kind
Hmm.
of made them take an interest in the other things I could potentially do. And one of those things was social media marketing. And I really wanted to be able to just tell the story of, Citywide Open Studios, which became open source through Instagram and through Facebook, and really just kind of implement some of my ideas into, just the overall strategy. So they had initiatives like Skate Haven, with the skate park, Edgewood Park, and then they had another one that was near the Artspace building. And then they had strategic partners, which was also great. And then my role was just really about not only the social media, but also the storytelling. So, like, taking what everybody else was working on, whether it was like engagement, volunteers, graphic design, and kind of
Hmm.
pooling those resources and then sharing the message so that it was consistent with the brand values that Artspace wanted to showcase. So I worked with them really closely to make that happen. I just had like a many ideas that I wanted to
Right.
implement. I didn't wasn't able to implement all of them, but like a good number of them I was able to implement in the short amount of time that we had for the festival. So it was like a lot of prep work that went into it, like a lot of everything was under review, which made a lot of sense. It wasn't like I could just come up with something, just post it. Everything just had to be, looked at, under the microscope. Like, okay, does this work with the vision? Does this work with what the team is working on as well? And it was just great to be in communication with just open source and it was really interesting for me going from the artist facing perspective and participating in Citywide Open Studios for like a number of years,
Right.
and
Yeah.
then going behind the curtain and actually help, make the festival what it is on social media, which is extremely important. And it was just really a memorable experience for me, just being able to like be behind the curtain and work closely with Artspace. It was like definitely a dream come true.
And I think, you know, from I think the viewer's perspective or the audience's perspective, we got to see, you were very intentional um, with letting the community kind of inside the minds of the artist and the community members. I'm gonna try to pull this up on the screen as you're
Hmm.
talking about it, because I think that it really helps um, kind of showcase what the work was and what the thinking was.
Hmm.
So
Definitely.
I'm going to grab that particular tab that has, and this is specific to the Instagram account. So let's just make sure that we can see that.
Yeah, there we go.
And I'm going to scroll through it a little bit. Obviously, I'm like, oh, look, there's me.
Yep, there's you.
But then we have other community members as well. So there's Barb Nangle of Known, there's
Hmm.
Frank Mr. Wonderful Brady, T. Montgomery, who is definitely an artist as a designer, as a fashion kind of designer and creator in that manner. I'm going to scroll up to, there's Quajo.
Hmm.
So, walk me through what it was like um, to interview each of these community members. What did you think about when you were making the choices, and then you were also like asking some very thoughtful questions
Thanks.
uh, as well.
Yeah, definitely walk through the process. So I had very specific people in mind to interview, and it was like people that I had known from my time at the Grove, now being at Known. Like Kevin, I wanted to interview him specifically.
Mhm.
Cynthia, people that I respect and admire, and that when I think of community, I think of artist community, like these specific people came to mind. So it
Mhm.
was really important for me to seek people out and like, I mean, I did a few Zoom interviews here and there, but for the most part, they were in person. Like I was going to
Right.
coffee and doing the interviews there for the most part. I'd have my questions ready to go, and the questions were a collaboration with Artspace. They wanted me to focus on not just having them talk about their process, but talk about how they dealt with the pandemic, what they learned from it, what they wanted to create for the future, and what they were looking for in terms of the New Haven community to support them. And that was like one of the mission statements that we came up with was like, all right, it's not just about artists talking about their art, it's about
Yeah.
artists advocating for themselves, number one, and then number two, asking for any kind of support that they may need and what that would look like and what it would look like in the general sense, yeah, and what it would look like specifically
Yeah.
to that artist. This was something that I came up with before I even got the job, was just like these many messages that you could scroll through, and it would encourage people to donate, but it would be done in like a tasteful, artful way.
Right.
And we just kind of distilled everything down to, artists' interviews, and we call them New Haven profiles. So we could be, I guess you could say, general with the type of art that we're featuring.
Yeah.
And then we also did staff interviews, which came up, later towards the end of the festival after we had showcased and highlighted all the artists that we wanted to highlight. And then events, and then funding. So we just kind of like nailed it down to that. I came up with a schedule. I showed them the schedule that got
Hmm.
signed off on, and then we would just kind of refine it as things went along. And I think the most exciting part for me was like not only having all these initiatives like get the green light, I was even able to, get my bonus daughter involved. My bonus daughter, Desiree Robinson, and she did there's little intros for just to start the day, like to
Right.
inform the audience of what was going to be happening day to day. And we just had her record everything. She did extremely well, just knocked it out. And as the festival was going on, we would just play them, and they were edited. They're really done well, and people would be informed about what was going on at the start of the day, and then they would get access to seeing all these posts, and then they'd get notified on
Yeah.
the virtual events too. But yeah,
One
it
of the
was
things
great.
that I noticed, yeah, one of the things that I noticed about this too, as the effort was going on, was just how excited the community was um, about, yeah, like seeing their favorite artists, their favorite community members, their favorite creators, entrepreneurs. You had mentioned Kevin, and there's Quajo in there, and so talk to me a little bit about what it felt like once these were posted up, and there was like a lot of engagement around it. There was a lot of sharing. There were people commenting, and really, I felt like providing like a lot of positive energy.
Yeah, I'm really happy to hear you say that. This was definitely one of the major highlights for me. Just I wanted to spotlight and feature creatives, and I wanted just to use the platform that I had to help others do that. So when the metrics were coming in, and I'd be told by the team that, hey, these posts are doing really well, like keep going, keep doing them. Let me know who you're going to interview next. It just really made me want to keep pressing forward, because like I got the job, and it's great and everything. And what was most important to me was just helping people. Like I really wanted to be out there interviewing either people that I knew personally that I respected, or people that I was connected to. Uh, and just kind of creating new friendships out of it too.
Yeah.
So just being able to like log into the account, see all the likes that would come in, see all the comments, all the feedback, people, thanking Artspace for kind of producing this kind of work to go along
Hmm.
with the festival and highlighting all these people. And I tried to keep things balanced. Like, Quajo is very known, for instance, and you have people that are still kind of on the come up as well, so
Yeah.
that other people may not have had their voice, heard in terms of, working with Artspace. My friend John Tarka is amazing, by the way. He's a principal over at ACES,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
yeah, he used to work at Hill House with me, and I realized he was one of the people that I wanted to talk to as well. So I met him at a brewery where he has his work featured, and we just did the interview, and it was really great. And he thanked me for the opportunity, and I was really happy that he was willing to not only talk about his process but be photographed as well. And the filters come in. We had there was a color palette that they wanted me to use, so I
Hmm.
kind of came up with this idea on having black and white photos with just a little splash of color that would kind of call it back to art space. And then so the artist profiles has that, and then the staff profiles has that as well. So just kind of tying everything together so it'd be a cohesive message for the brand. So you'd be able to look at like the open source logo, and then you'd be able to look at the photos and say, like, oh, okay, it all falls within the
Within
branding and what we're trying to accomplish. So yeah, I'm just like super, super happy with the way that it came out. And, I don't have, like, I'm still getting my feet wet when it comes to social media marketing and management. And, when I was pitching them to get the job, I just said like, hey, this is something that I know I can do. I've
Yeah.
worked with brands like 2030 or Bust in the past with my
Right.
friend Lachlan Arts, and we got some really good metrics off of that. And then just seeing that I can kind of carry that through to Artspace, which is a brand that I've studied in the past from afar, and then also work with them, as an artist, just being one of the artists featured in like citywide open studios, and then having my wedding reception there too. So everything kind of like had like this great narrative arc. So I guess you could say, and I'm just really happy with just the opportunity that they gave me to work with them.
So you had said that this was kind of a little bit new in a way, right? Working in the social media space in such a way. What were some things that you learned, and that you realized you're like, oh, I'm going in this direction, and now I'm going to have to either expand this direction or kind of move a little bit. What was that process like?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the main experiences that I got was working on a team, and managing the social media and getting feedback from, like the executive director and other people on the team, and just kind of going with the flow. Like there were certain posts I wanted to put out. They might have had to go later because something else had to take precedence, like an event needed to get promoted that wasn't promoted as well as it could have. So we kind of had to like really just balance like doing the profiles, for instance, with the events, and then making sure things were shot, and just making sure everything was like on track so that people were not only aware the events were going on, but that they were also, you know, reminders for events that were happening, whether it was like a virtual talk or something in person, so that when people were going on the page, everything was just easy to find. And we didn't want to frustrate anybody. We wanted to just make it like a seamless experience, where people could go to the IG page, to the Facebook, and see where they want to go and kind of pick and choose what worked for them.
Right.
So I think for me, it was just like working on a team was a big thing, and just taking the feedback, running with it, and then also posting frequently was another thing. Like we started out with like 1 to 2 posts a day, and then for the
Yeah.
festival, like it really ramped up, and I took it upon myself to just kind of space things out. Like I didn't want to do it like on the hour every day. So I'd probably
Yeah.
go like maybe every other hour or something for like 4 or 5 hours just to get these posts out. Like we wanted to like get posts out to talk about our partners, to
Hmm.
thank our partners, to thank the people that were doing the New Haven profiles with us, keep featuring those, and then also starting to feature the staff profiles towards the end of the initiative. So just kind of like going in with a plan and then making adjustments as the feedback came in. That was really important to learn.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I also noticed, even from the very beginning, that it was a nice, lovely mix of both the the artists themselves, their focus, their needs, um, what the past couple of years have been like for them, but then also so important. And we've had conversations, the two of us, about the community, and how what the community can do to kind of like lift up the art community. And remember, like I said, and then you've said, and other people have said as well, I know when people were doing murals, on the walls of the this around the city, it was a gathering spot that we could actually incorporate into our lives. I could walk down the street and go down into like the Ninth Square district, or
Mm-hmm.
you know other areas under bridges and that sort of thing, and just kind of watch how a mural would unfold. um, or if somebody was communicating what their artistic process was online, that sort of thing. So those were
Mm-hmm.
all things that, like, specifically during the pandemic, we were really grabbing for these moments to kind
Yeah,
of
I know.
and I think the fact that Artspace allowed for this kind of conversation, where I just pulled up one here where Barb Nangle over at the at Known had just basically said, the scene in New Haven is totally dope. We have all these pockets of studios, alternative spaces, and so many artists and creators that don't have their own studio working out of their basement or on their kitchen table. Um, so she's really understanding that there's this need for connection, and art is definitely um, part of that connection. Um,
Hmm.
and art space and you and in this communication have helped communicate that.
Happy to hear that. Yeah, and big shout out to Barb. I loved interviewing her, and it was just so easy. Like I really appreciated that about the interview, and she was just so willing to share her story
Hmm.
and just be honest about it. Like I really appreciated just how everything came together, and it's like, I made edits here and there for length, but like there was just so much to work with out of all these profiles. Like it was just like an abundance of riches, so to speak, like a lot to offer.
Yeah. um so talk to me about I'm scrolling through this again.
Hmm.
I just loved the way when you were coming up with, because you basically asked everybody around, about the same questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, with like a little bit of nuance as the conversation
Hmm.
was moving along. But when you were thinking about how you were going to shape these conversations, um, what were you, because there was an overarching kind of theme that you were looking for, and then there was like, then from there you also drew from each individual personality and contribution.
Oh, I'm so happy that you got that. It means I did my job. That's great. That's great. So I think again it goes back to just working with Artspace and being a team player. I knew there were definitely points that I wanted to hit. Like I sent them the first draft of questions, and they're like, "Okay, like make sure you're asking about the pandemic. Do it in a way that's like uplifting, though." I
Right.
didn't want to like have anybody be interviewed and then just the response and the feedback that I get is just like a negative thing. It's more like, hey, like we're all going through this together.
Right.
This is what I was able to overcome, and you can do the same as well. So that was
Mhm.
definitely something that I had in mind, and I knew that they had in mind too. So I think my process for that was like, after I did your interview, I kind of distilled 4 questions. I came up with 4 questions, like, had to do with the pandemic. I had to know about the person personally, what their art is, why they love creating it, and then just kind of wrapping up with like, okay, how can the community support you? And then so after I had like that base with each person that I met, I kind of allowed a little room to kind of, just tailor it to them while sticking to, making sure everything was covered. And I think everybody that I was interviewing appreciated it because, I made sure I did my homework on everybody that I talked to, even if I had a relationship with them, I wanted to make sure that I was up to date with what they were working on.
What they're
And then
working
the
on.
responses that I got just were really phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, I do really love that, you know, every time when I opened up the Instagram account, and it seems like also that a lot of people were looking forward to it. I'm looking at all the likes. And I guess so Instagram and this is an Instagram thing. Instagram gets to a point where it's like there's so many likes, and then it's like, well, it's liked by this person and then others.
Yeah.
So Artspace, the account for Artspace, they can see everything through the insights.
Hmm.
But what we can see is just like a lot, and I'm gonna just scroll through here, a very
Mm.
long list
Mm-hmm.
of people who are liking, um, you know, this these posts. And then the other thing too is the elusive comments as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So as people are coming in, we're actually having, you know, conversations, and even just like a little high five, or, you know, sign of some sort, a little heart or something like that. That's just
Mm-hmm.
basically like, yeah, I see what you did there. That's awesome. We love you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the response was just like even better than I would have hoped. Like, just I could feel how happy people were to be celebrated and to see people that they knew be celebrated too. Like, that was really cool.
Yeah. I think it was really cool. And I think it was just like something that we needed, because again, this particular kind of open studios, um, you know, was not, I would say, not at the numbers like from a few years ago. Like we're still in that like very tentative period where it's just like, should we go over there or
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
and how can we do it in such a manner that but I think the other thing too, right, is that art creates conversation. Um and in this case, social media created conversation and kind of filled in the gaps,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, that that we all seem to be craving right now.
Right. Yeah.
Um, cool. And I think I let me ask you: is there anything else that you kind of got from this? Like once you were, I know you had a particular vision when this started out. Um, you communicated the vision. There were other voices within that vision as well, and then there was a wrap up. So I know that you kind of talked about your vision, everybody's vision being communicated. What what were some of the takeaways once this particular project was at completion? What were some things that everybody seemed to have?
Um, so the takeaways collectively, internally, it was like everybody really enjoyed working on it. And then there was also just a feeling of like, okay, like where do we go from here with, what comes next? Open source was, really successful with, engaging the community, creating this conversation, and just not only showcasing like these New Haven profiles, but celebrating the people at Artspace. That was like one of my main intentions too, was like, I don't want to just be about the profiles. Like, the profiles are great,
Yeah,
and I want them to go hand in hand with who Artspace is, like humanizing Artspace as a nonprofit. It's like, nonprofits run
yeah,
by these people, this is what they do. And just giving that opportunity for people behind the curtain, so to speak, to come forward and say, hey, now we've wrapped the festival, like, this is what I did during the festival and things like that.
right.
So it was just really phenomenal. And to be honest, it's just something that was a little bittersweet for me, just because when the contract ended, it's like, oh, okay, that's it. And this is just
Yeah,
something that I want to do more of. Like, I was really passionate about interviewing people, getting to know new people. And this is just something I want to continue to do, like either if it's for Artspace or, other organizations as well. Like, I really enjoy, the social media part of it, and then also connecting with people, whether it's like a Zoom call or something, and then turning that into like this interview. Like that whole process
Right.
is just like so much fun. It's like I'm just another skill set that I didn't really know that I had. So like I'm getting to
Mhm.
like nurture this new thing and then just like see these results and then, just see, how it's received. Like it's just really, really amazing.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that a little bit. The very first part of what you said, because this is something that I don't want to say that I struggle with, but there is, I love working on projects, right? But projects mean that there's an ending,
Hmm.
right? There's a definite end. You know that you're going to get to it. It's not a surprise. And at the same time, when that happens, you are kind of like, I know for me, I'm like, okay, I'm going to work on this project with you, and it's going to be for like 3 months or 6 months or a year. Um, and there's it's like a story. It's a definite beginning, middle, end. And then when
Hmm.
that comes, and you're not supposed to be surprised, saddened, taken aback, whatever that is, but then it's just like, oh, what do I do now?
Hmm.
So that's an interesting kind of thing as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. And this is not specific to Artspace. And I almost think that it's another larger kind of conversation that might include a panel.
Yeah.
Is mentally and emotionally, how do you disengage from that project, and what is it that you do that where you utilize a balance
Mm.
of like, that was a great opportunity. We had to wrap it up. How do we continue the conversation at any kind of level? And I know, like some of the people that are in those photos, you have a relationship with and you've
Hmm.
worked projects with, or there's something that's coming up. So I guess, yeah. What is it like? Like, I know what
That's
it's
a
like
good
from like
question.
my perspective, right? But like, what is it like from like your perspective? It's like, okay, we need to do like a healthy little kind of, see you later.
Mm. Yeah, that's a really good question. So in terms of, I guess I'll do it like in general sense, and then
Yeah.
project specific. So to start with project specific, disengaging from art space physically was actually pretty easy in terms of like the social media piece, because like after the contract was done, it's like my privileges were like done, and I completely get it. It's like they didn't want us, me running the account after the fact. So that made it easier to start transitioning into like the mindset of like, okay, I want to find additional work from other sources, and also keep this door open too with Artspace in case anything comes down the pipeline. And because I'm always willing to work with Artspace on other projects. So I connected with Lisa Dent, the executive director of Artspace,
Yeah.
after it was completed. Just thanking her for all the graciousness and having me come on the team and everything. So kind of like I guess like a conversation, just kind of close things out and recap, and just express interest if there's like anything down the line of other things opening up. Just being interested in that.
Right.
So for me, I think that's a mindset I try to have just with any projects I take on, whether it's like for a few weeks or a few months or a few years, just wrapping up with the client or, my supervisor,
Mhm.
and just saying like, hey, like this has been my experience. I had a good time. If there's anything else that comes down the pipeline, I'm open to it. Just, keeping that door open while also pursuing other ventures.
Right. Because I know that you also have other ventures as well, and it's not always, it's in a lot of different spaces.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's interesting too, that there's like a connection, and then it's like then obviously too, part of it is like well, I'm not getting, I'm getting paid for a certain thing or a certain project or a certain amount. And it's like, all right, I can just walk away now.
Yeah.
And we should be so business like about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. There was a part of me that wanted to like keep posting. Like, can I get like an extra one in there? Like, no,
I
no,
just
you're
look at
done.
this as one
So
more
I
thing.
get it, but yeah, I definitely grew attached to running the account, and like if given the opportunity, I would love to just keep running the account. Hint, hint.
Yeah, no, totally. But and the thing is too that's just, really interesting, right? It's because, we're human beings. We have, emotions and connections and that sort of thing. And
Hmm.
I think that's something that definitely in business, and I never, like, for me, I think I never want to lose that part where it's
Yeah,
like we're not robots. We're not robots.
definitely not.
So, um, so we speaking of things ending, we, we we have a few minutes. So, and I think we did good. I think in 40 it
I
took
think we
only took
did good
45
too.
minutes.
We got down to a science now.
I know, right? It's like, well, we're done now, so it's cool. I don't
Love it.
really know what else we want to talk about here.
Yeah, really.
Um, yeah, I think for me to wrap this up, I was really excited about talking about this particular project with Artspace. And for me personally, it was something that like I was really happy when you had asked me, you had interviewed me, and I was like, oh, that's great, because there's really stuff that I want to say, um, about my feelings about the New Haven art world and about
Hmm.
art space in particular, and providing these opportunities, and that sort of thing. And I think I just want to take this stage that I have now to say what I said in that particular interview, and the stage that I was given then.
Hmm.
um and I don't even remember what the heck the question was, but my answer was that, um you know we as consumers of art should not be looking for free, and should not be looking for discounts, and understanding
Right.
that if the artist wants to give you, like, I'm going to give you a friend's, discount or something like that. But for us as consumers, that we should seek, um, to pay the artists what they're worth, the same way that we're as business people, asking to, and we seek to be paid what we're worth, what our experience is, whether
Hmm.
it's by the hour or per project or whatever that is. And I think it's interesting to have that conversation about, um, you know business people learning more from artists,
Mm.
creativity, innovation, thinking outside the box, that sort of thing, and also artists learning from what is usually considered traditional business people.
Hmm.
And again, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, we could always segue into something else for another talk.
All right. Make a note of that one.
Yeah,
Um, so once again, I want to thank you so much for coming on to Digital Media Sync and to
of course.
talking about this particular project. This definitely fit. Um, and I was super excited for there to be the sign off to, like, go ahead and talk about this particular project with Artspace, because it really touched upon so many aspects of utilizing social media to communicate, to promote, to promote an event, to promote ideas, to
Hmm.
promote conversation. And I think that that's really what, not only as a professional for me that I want to do, but um, that and I want to help anybody else who's in any kind of space, whether it's art or business or nonprofit, whatever it is,
Hmm.
um, and just show what the potential is.
Yeah.
Utilizing these online platforms. What does it look like? And this was just a really great example. It really, really was.
I'm happy to hear that. And yeah, thanks for having me on. Thanks for being my first interviewee, and kind of like kicking off these New Haven profiles. Like, it's just like an amazing experience. And it's really nice to reminisce and talk about, just what was created during it, with the team and everything. And just how the social media campaign turned out. Like, just really, really incredible. Great experience.
Well, thank you so much, and I'm gonna let you go back to what you're doing or the next thing that you're doing, and I'm gonna go and actually I'm gonna go and start preparing for the next two dates that we have here at Digital Media Sync. So just a reminder to everybody, this is Digital Media Sync. We have two more episodes coming up. Um, excuse me. I have one on Tuesday, the uh, the 18th of January, and that's going to be at 9 o'clock. And we're going to be talking about LinkedIn learning with Celeste Tapia from the New Haven Free Public Library. So this is another partnership that I really enjoy having. I'm able to invite Celeste on to Digital Media Sync to talk about the New Haven Free Public Library's digital toolbox and what they have available there for businesses, for nonprofits, and for creative people. But we're going to be talking about LinkedIn Learning next week. And then on Thursday, the 20th, and I believe that's at 11 o'clock, but that'll be up on the known co-working Facebook page, YouTube, Instagram, the website. But I will be bringing Rebecca and Sarah from the Arts Council onto the show, and we're going to be talking about how the Arts Council is, what's going to be going on in 2022, both from the perspective of programming and communication. In the meantime, I'm gonna sign off now. See, I don't know how to end things. It's like, oh, okay, this is the end now. This is the end of the show. We're all done.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see everybody later. Bye bye. Thank you.
Yeah.